Welcome back to the channel. Today this is titled "The UK is Dying and I Need to Vent," and this is by a channel called Educate, which I love the way she did that, like Edukate, very clever. But this video went viral. I seen the title and I'm just like, I gotta react to this because first off, I have so much content that's UK based, right? And everything that's going on in the US right now, it's like I want to hear the voice of the UK and see if there's a similarity, which I'm pretty sure there will be, because it's crazy times right now. So with that being said, we're smoking all my dragons, divine, righteous, almighty, greats, overachieving, never slacking. We flying back over to the UK, and I'm gonna go ahead and get to it. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Kate and I am 29 years old. I am Scottish.
Shout out to Scotland. She around my age. We same generation, millennials.
Scottish, a quarter Irish, but I spent my whole life in Scotland and consider myself Scottish. However, since June of this year, 2024, I haven't lived in Scotland or any part of the UK. Firstly, I lived in Greenland for 4 months, which is very random, but I had a really cool job opportunity there. And then that was basically a fun folly, with afterwards the plan being to move to Hong Kong to teach English, which is where I've been for the past 2 months. And this is now my home. You know, I'm not saying forever, but definitely for at least a year. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why I feel that way. So, small amount of context. That this channel that I'm posting this on, it's got like 100 subscribers, so it's completely irrelevant. However, what I want it to be is a channel where I interview people. I interview people because I really enjoy that. I love talking to new people, I love learning new experiences. But why I'm kind of breaking the mold today and just talking to the camera is because the last person I interviewed was a guy called Daryl Solis. And Daryl, apologies, I've not talked to my GoPro before. And Daryl did a viral video about leaving the UK and why he chose to do that. And as I was having that conversation with him and reflecting on it afterwards, I realised there was so much more that I wanted to say as someone myself in a position who's chose to leave the UK. So let me tell you why I chose to leave the UK, why I feel better already for it, and why I would, with a heavy heart, and I mean that seriously, I do love my country a lot, but with a heavy heart, I would genuinely recommend that if you're watching this as a young person in the UK, you consider moving. So the first reason is that you're genuinely paid shit. Like, even if you think you're on a good wage, half of that goes in taxes. That's if you're on a really good wage, right? And if you're not on a good wage, the reason you don't pay half in taxes is because the government knows that you need that money literally to survive. So the money you're making isn't to have fun with, it's literally to get you through the month so that you can work for the next month. We live in a country where if you try to better yourself by going to university, the interest you pay on your education means that it's basically guaranteed that for the rest of your working life you're 10%, 9%, so 10% of that is going to be taken away from your salary. And if you're someone who isn't making that much to begin with, or did a degree that's completely vital for the economy, you might resent that for the rest of your life 9% of your education but is taken away because of your education. Your choice to better yourself costs you so much money. And if you're like me, then you will have graduated but never had a graduate job. So you'll be paying 9% just for the experience, which quite frankly is bollocks, because, you know, for me personally, half of my experience of university was during COVID, so the experience wasn't there. But also just in terms of how I feel as someone with, you know, an okay amount of intelligence, I don't attribute much of what I've learnt in life to my university experience at all. It's just not worth it. It's very frustrating to owe a government so much money when you just don't feel that you've got much back in return. You know, and it's the same with taxes. Look, I grew up left leaning. I'm still left leaning in principle, in theory, but it's, if you can't see where your taxes are going, it's so stressful. It's so stressful that such a high percentage of your income can be taken away from you when you know what you could do with that to better your life, and in the process of bettering your life, better the lives of the people around you and society. You know, if you could get a house, and if you could, you know, invest in some skill sets, blah blah blah, with that money, that would be good for the economy. That would be good for your community. But instead, you throw it down a money hole. That's really what it feels like. I had poor mental health a few years ago, and I was told it was a priority that I get therapy. And I was put on a waiting list for therapy, and 15 months later I got a call to start therapy, and by then I had to decline it because my address had changed. So the area that I was entitled to it for, I was no longer in, and I was considered critical. I was the priority, and it took 15 months. Now, I got to sort myself out in that case. So, but so many people don't. Some people literally die, and I'm gutted for them. I have a younger sister who is quite severely disabled, and so she's just, it's a very clear-cut situation where she's someone who completely needs support, and will never, you know, will never get a house based on, you know, of the money she's.
I just want to say real quick. I understand. I grew up with an uncle who is schizophrenic. And my mother, she dedicated her life pretty much to taking care of my uncle, literally. So I do understand in a lot of ways. It's just a lot of things she's saying as far as taxes, everything. It sounds like the U.S. It does.
Saved or anything. She's entitled to supported living accommodation, and she got on the waiting list this year. And in Dumfries and Galloway, it could be 5 to 10 years before she gets supported living accommodation. So in 10 years' time, theoretically, could be when she moves out of mum's. By then, she will be in her late 30s. This is someone with dreams to be independent. You know, and by then, my mum will be in her late 60s and will have looked after my sister for, 38 years.
And the reason I understand that is because, from my perspective of, like when I say I grew up with an uncle, same household, since a child. I also have, a older brother, and so my mom trying to balance that out was, it was hectic. Me and my brother had to grow up pretty fast and handle a lot. I I understand. I understand. I really do. I really do.
Obviously, you should be such a primary part of caring for your loved ones when they're sick or disabled. That's how it's always worked. But the idea that there's basically no chance of support, uh, and the idea that, you know, unless you're mega rich, you just have to accept that situation. It's such a disservice to my sister. It's a disservice to my mother, who has paid taxes her entire life, who's always contributed so much to this economy. Now that it's time for her to get something back, she's not going to, or, you know, at least not for basically ever. And also, when I think about the fact that my sister's very well cared for by my mum is someone who enjoys caring for my sister and, you know, can basically do it. When I consider that that's the best case scenario, but out there in Scotland there are so many far more compromising situations where they will also be told it'll take 10 years. And, you know, lives are falling apart in those situations. People are being abused. Finances are being ruined. It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting to me. If I could just circle back to mental health in the UK, I think every aspect of how mental health is treated in the UK is so damaging for the mentally unwell. Because first of all, if you're a young person, you're quite obsessed with mental health. We're always analysing our feelings. We're always diagnosing ourselves based on stuff that we see online. We're constantly talking about mental health. But we're stuck at that stage where we're over-analysing ourselves, but no real help is given. And that's the worst of both. You know, what you want is that you get the opportunity to be self-aware, and you get the opportunity to explore who you are, vulnerabilities and all, but that you don't stay in that stage where you're kind of thinking, oh, who am I? What am I? Why do I feel like this? That stage is important because it then takes you to the next stage, which is action. But we don't get to have action when the NHS just can't support you. You have to, and I'm sorry to be blunt, you have to literally have a suicide attempt or something crazy before you're urgent enough that they can really prioritise you. And then what does it mean that, like, you know, even when that happens, does it mean that you get to make a full recovery and you're really looked after, and a thorough investigation into your mental health is done from a holistic perspective as well as a medical one? Very unlikely. And if that's true for mental health, it will be true for physical health as well.
She's really she's really getting to my heart right now. What's going through my head right now? Like last week, I reacted to a video which I will actually put the recommendation at the end of this video, and it's of someone I know. I know his son's my age. He has two sons actually. Around my age. I know his daughter. No, like I grew up around his family, and long story short, he got into a situation with an officer, and the officer was shot. He was shot. He ends up getting 35 to life. Um, it went viral, and it's like he had mental issues. You know, he had like was diagnosed, had mental issues, and don't get me wrong, how he maneuvered in the video. You know, he should have talked to the officer. He shouldn't have ignored the officer and kept walking. But it's like there is a big mental health crisis even within the U.S. So it's like it's just crazy to hear what she's saying in the UK. Now apply that to the U.S. where you do have a lot of, and this officer in the video, he did everything. From what I seen, it seemed like majority of what he did was right. I'm not going to sit here and say he was wrong, but excluding that situation, you do have a lot of officers in America, in the U.S., who are very trigger happy, and then there's a lot of people who have mental health issues and they ain't really getting. So it's like, imagine if UK had a bunch of trigger happy cops. Is what I'm trying to say. You know, like.
Yeah, I think because of these riots that happened this summer, it's just obvious that people are very unhappy. Now, depending on where you sit politically, you might feel that that unhappiness is legitimately because of immigration, um, or you might feel that that's misplaced anger and that it's actually about other things, or you might feel it's a bit of both. But either way, people in the UK are livid. They're so angry because we were brought up being told we lived in one of the best countries in the world. That you were so lucky compared to other places. Now, of course, that's true, but if every month you're working just to get through that month and you are living in a place that isn't that nice, that's taking all your money in rent to pay for some rich person's 7th holiday this year, and you don't feel respected at work, the weather isn't nice, you're becoming increasingly anxious because you're aware that you're aging and that you don't have a pension, and that you're never going to be able to afford a house, and oh shit, okay, can I even consider if I want kids? Because if I can't even afford kids, then is it even good for me to even consider if I can have kids? And if I can't have kids and I don't have my own place and I've no money, do I even want to date? Do I, even want to feel that I have an opinion? Do I want to, really pursue my dreams? Can I? It takes so much from you. It's very upsetting. I didn't feel this upset a few years ago. A few years ago, I would have said, look, everywhere's got their problems, which is true. And I would have said, a lot of this comes from a lack of perspective. If you go to other places, you'd realise that you've got it better. And the people love to moan, etc., etc. Well, I've now been to quite a few places, I'm very lucky to say. And of course it's true that everyone's got their problems, but this idea that the UK is better than everywhere else is just bollocks. That
That's a similar mindset in the U.S. That is a similar mindset.
mindset we have is really holding us back. It really stops us from feeling that we can complain.
Maybe sometimes people's competition within each other is because they see a reflection of each other that subconsciously they don't like.
Yeah. So what made my mind change a few years ago is that I graduated from a pretty good uni, if I may say so. I applied for a shit ton of graduate jobs and I couldn't find any. And for a while I was actually okay with that, because it's like, well, this is, you're going to spend the whole of your life in a good job. So if you have 2 or 3 years where you don't, and you're doing waitressing, which is fun, but not making you a lot of money, then that's cool. You've no responsibilities right now anyway. Anyway, years and years went by where I was always applying and doing this minimum wage job waitressing, which I did enjoy it, but there's no money in it, there's no respect, and eventually it really compromises your CV if it's all you can say you've done. How I managed to be a waitress, so someone on minimum wage, but still not live at home with my parents, was that I was a live-in waitress. So I worked in a hotel that I also lived in staff accommodation in the side of. And the hotel, it's nothing that dramatic, but it was just one of these hotels where the managers above you make 50p more, but they're dead arsey to you. They think that makes them it, even though they're not necessarily better at the job, they've just been there longer or whatever. And then, the people that own the hotel are quite out of touch. They don't pay you extra at Christmas, they don't, you've worked for them for ages, but they don't know your name, etc., etc. I found that I was becoming quite resentful that I worked there, considering my education, which I understand is very snobby. I'm just being honest about how I was feeling, and I was beginning to feel like I'm behind in life. This isn't where I want to be, because I'm working for less money than I need, and I'm working to make someone else millions who I don't care for, because they don't care for me. And I enjoy the job in that I like interacting with other people. I like giving people good experiences, but this isn't my passion, you know. But then I slowly realised, Kate, you've got it good. Most people your age in the UK either live with their parents, or they live in a city and they get to have all the independence that comes with that, and all the, like, some cool memories, going out drinking and stuff, but they pay a shit ton for that. So even if you're in a good job, like say you're making 50 grand, which would be twice as much as what I was making as a waitress, once you take off the tax and you take off the very high rent, these people probably have less expendable income at the end of each month than you do. In fact, I know that they do. And that put things into perspective for me, because then I had to realise your life's not what you want it to be, Kate. Your life doesn't feel that good right now, but you have got it good in comparison to a significant percentage of people your age in your country. And that's when I was faced with a choice. Do I accept that? Obviously I'm always a fan of gratitude, but do I accept that to the extent that I just bury down my frustrations? Or do I do something about that? And that's why I decided that I was gonna move abroad. Not because abroad is perfect, but because I need a palate cleanse from the UK. It's making me sad. I need a palate cleanse from the distrust in the air, and the increasing anxiety in the air. And I need a break from being so anxious when I get each paycheck that I've got to save this, like, what can I save each month, so that, if I save this and this and this, in 5 years I might have a deposit, in 10 years, and having to sacrifice quite basic experiences like going to the pub, or, going for a meal out with my boyfriend when we were dating, because that 50 quid with every little helps so much, blah blah blah, really feeling you had to just not live so that one day you could live. And look, I'm all for that as a short-term strategy, but thinking about that in terms of the 10 years of your life, so that you can have 30 grand, so that can be a deposit, which is then the start of paying a mortgage for the rest of your life. I think things are going to get worse in the UK. A lot of people are going to blame Labour for that. I think, I'm still open-minded about the Labour Party, but as in the damage that's been done in the 12 years prior is still in effect. So even that is going to be tough. It's not just UK's government policies that is making the UK and the Western world a tough place to live. We also spend all of our time on social media. It drains us mentally, even when we don't realise it. We don't socialise in real life as much as we should. And we far less people are having kids and you know, being in meaningful relationships. It's sad. It's sad that you miss out in these things in life during the most developed period of civilization. I'm not someone with I'm not someone with any of the answers. I'm just someone that really felt I actually just had to do this video because talking to Daryl, realised that I have been suppressing a lot of emotions about the opportunities in my country as a young person. I've been suppressing them out of guilt that other people have it worse. I've been suppressing them out of disbelief, considering how often we're told that Britain is amazing. And I've been repressing them because a lot of these problems I blamed on myself. You know, that I wasn't doing well in life, or as well as I could have, you know. But so many more people are talking out than ever before.
Yes.
That Britain is really going down the shitter. And I'm very grateful to those people because they've helped me articulate my feelings and they've helped validate my feelings, and they've also made me a little hopeful in that the more people that start talking about it, the more chance there's something that will actually be done about it. Yeah, anyway, that's my 2 cents. Like I say, it's whatever. But yeah, it's New Year's Eve in Hong Kong. I'm now gonna go out and watch the fireworks. And I really, really wish you a beautiful 2025. Okay, lots of love.
What y'all just witnessed was a genuine soul sounding an alarm. Sounding an alarm off to humanity, not just Britain, but humanity in general. Because honestly, it sounds like she was describing the U.S. in a lot of ways. And what she doing is she giving y'all that shadow work. What that mean? That means she's making y'all look at y'all shadow. She's making y'all look at the dark aspects. You know, everybody likes to live in the false self and, oh, you know, we're the best over here, this and that, and this and that, and that's cool. But a lot of people get so caught up in that they never look at the shadow. They never look at what's wrong, right? And that's what she doing. Like she said, she didn't realize she was suppressing all of these feelings of guilt and just all these different low vibrational emotions, and and she just came and just expressed it. And whew, that was, I guarantee that was part of her, even her life purpose, even being here on this planet. I connected with her a lot. I think it's more so because she looks just like my Irish friend back in my hometown. Her last name is Sindoni, right? She looks just like her, and that's somebody who supported me for my whole life pretty much. And it's like, so there was already that. I don't know. It's crazy. I think energy can for sure pop up in just different ways. Like you ever meet somebody or come across somebody and it's like you like it's just like somebody you know. Ain't that something? But yeah, anyway, she was yeah, she had a lot of points, and just looking at so much from mental health to where oh man. All right. So when the people in America, for example, talk about native tribes, right? And you know, what you'll hear back usually is, well, they were savages, they were doing this and they were doing that. People are usually talking about the way the principles that they live by, the spiritual principles, right? Of like of nature, connecting with nature, of like they move, like all these different tribes moved as a unit. So they didn't have to worry about, oh, not to say everybody didn't have their problems, but all this paying mortgage and working all the time, like leaving us disconnected. Everybody's kind of isolated. You at this job, you at this job, you. Whereas they was at least together, right? And when something was wrong, at least everybody knew what the problem was. You know, everybody had their healers, what we call shamans, their this and that, and it's like everybody has a fall state too, and by the time most people even got to what we call America, where these tribes were at war, I mean, it was already a lot of these civilizations were already at a fall. That's how they were able to get conquered because they was already at a fall. We don't know about what the hype was like. We're just always told humans were, you know, just always at war and really that's kind of what we're told in the US, like yo, humans were just always horrible people. Humans were, and yeah, we've been horrible for a long time as humans. But who's to say there wasn't a time where it was like heaven on earth? And we're just not told about that because if we knew about that, wouldn't we strive for that again? It's just like when you're always told, gaslighted, and as if when oh, something's not happening, right? Like if you've been wronged and you're gaslit and told, oh no, that's just you. It's like, or if you're told, man, this is bad, and they say, oh, it's worse in other places. It's like a way of getting you to just accept everything that you shouldn't accept, right? And man, she was very genuine. Like you could feel her heart. You really can. And people are speaking up all around the world right now. And humanity, we're going to end up having to come together at some point. I truly believe that. Or else, or else it'll be like the Alfred wives out here. If y'all don't seen that movie. But with that being said, this was a beautiful video. That was the UK is dying and I need to vent. Her channel is Educate. Original link will be in the description. Go subscribe to her. Go show her some love. She's awesome and I'm very happy I seen this video. With that being said, I'll be back with more soon. Much love, y'all.